They laughed when the old veteran was kicked out into the freezing mountains, until his dog started digging and uncovered something no one was supposed to find. Ethan Cole had already lost everything: his home, his family, and the life he once knew. With nothing but an old truck and his German shepherd, Titan, he found himself staring at a strange column of smoke rising from a frozen hillside in Wyoming. No cabin, no people, just silence, and something hidden beneath the ground. While the town mocked him, Titan refused to walk away, and this time, Ethan chose to trust the one companion who had never betrayed him. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? Every morning, just after the first pale light crept over the frozen ridges of Wyoming, the smoke appeared, and it rose in a thin gray line from the side of a snow-covered hill just beyond the edge of Red Hollow. Not thick like a chimney, not wild like a wildfire, just steady, quiet, unnatural. Against the endless white of winter, it looked like the earth itself was breathing. No one could explain it. There was no cabin, no shack, no trapper's tent, nothing but wind, ice, and frozen grass stretching for miles. And yet, every morning, the smoke returned, always in the same place, always just before dawn. Sheriff Cole Harding had gone out there 3 times. The first time, he rode alone, thinking it was just some drifter trying to stay hidden. He circled the hill, dismounted, walked every inch of ground he could reach. Snow crunched beneath his boots, the air sharp enough to sting his lungs. He found nothing. The second time, he brought deputies, and they spread out, combing the hillside in a wide sweep. They checked for footprints, dug at soft patches of snow, even probed the ground with metal rods. The wind howled, the cold bit through their coats, but there was no sign of life. No door, no chimney, no heat source, just cold earth. And yet, when they stepped back to the road, the smoke was still there. The third time, Sheriff Harding didn't tell anyone. He went alone before sunrise, watching from a distance. He stood there for nearly an hour, his breath fogging in the freezing air, his eyes fixed on that same impossible sight. When the smoke began to rise again, thin, silent, unwavering, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Doubt. "There's nothing out there," he muttered to himself, though his voice didn't sound convinced. "Oh, there's nothing that could make that." By noon that day, he told the town council it was nothing. Gas vent, he said, or heat escaping from underground rock. Natural phenomenon. People nodded. Some laughed. One man joked that maybe the hill was haunted, and just like that, the mystery became a story people told over coffee, then forgot. But not everyone forgot. At the edge of town, parked beside an old rusted fence line, a faded blue pickup truck sat facing the distant hill. Frost coated the windshield. The engine was off, but someone was inside. Ethan Cole hadn't moved for nearly 20 minutes. At 67, his face was carved by time and weather, deep lines etched across his skin like scars you couldn't see the origin of. His beard was gray and uneven, just his eyes sharp but tired, the kind of eyes that had seen too much and never quite learned how to forget it. He didn't look at the town. He didn't look at the road. He looked at the smoke. It rose slowly now, twisting into the pale sky, almost delicate. Most people would have dismissed it. Most people already had. But Ethan wasn't most people. Beside him, in the passenger seat, Titan lifted his head. The German shepherd was large, built like a soldier more than a pet. Thick shoulders, alert posture, ears twitching at every distant sound. His coat was a mix of black and tan, dulled slightly by age, but still powerful, still sharp. And right now, he wasn't calm. A low growl rumbled in his chest. Ethan glanced at him. "You see it too, huh?" Titan didn't take his eyes off the hill. His body stiffened, His ears leaned forward. Then, slowly, he stood up in the seat, placing his front paws against the dashboard, staring straight ahead. Another growl. Not loud, not aggressive, focused. Ethan followed his gaze back to the smoke. "Easy," he murmured, though his voice carried more curiosity than command. "It's just smoke." But Titan didn't relax. Instead, he let out a sharp, warning bark, once, sudden and echoing in the still morning air. Ethan flinched slightly, not from fear, but from memory. That sound, that exact tone, he had heard it before. Not here, not in Wyoming, but somewhere hot, somewhere loud, somewhere filled with dust. Dust and gunfire, and things buried beneath the ground that didn't want to be found. Ethan's jaw tightened. He looked back at the hill, really looked this time, not as a man watching something strange, but as a soldier analyzing something wrong. The slope was too clean. The snow lay undisturbed, smooth except for the wind's patterns. No tracks, no signs of movement. No reason for heat to escape like that. And yet the smoke kept rising. Steady, consistent, controlled. Ethan leaned forward slightly, narrowing his eyes. "That ain't random," he whispered. Titan barked again, louder this time. Then he jumped down from the seat, claws clicking against the floor, pacing once before turning back toward the door. His tail was rigid, his entire body alert in a way Ethan hadn't seen in years. Not since the war. "Hey," Ethan said quietly. "What is it?" Titan didn't answer, of course. He just stared at the hill, then back at Ethan, then at the door. A signal. Clear. Direct. "Let me out." Ethan hesitated. For a long moment, he just sat there, staring at the smoke, listening to the faint hum of the wind outside. His hands rested on the steering wheel, fingers rough, knuckles scarred. Most people would have driven away. Most people would have trusted the sheriff, trusted the explanation, trusted that nothing was there. But Ethan had learned something a long time ago. When something doesn't make sense, it usually means you're not seeing the whole picture. He reached for the door handle. The cold hit immediately when he stepped outside, sharp and biting. Snow crunched under his boots as he walked around the truck. Titan was already at the edge of the road, staring toward the hill, his body vibrating with tension. "All right," Ethan muttered, pulling his coat tighter. "Let's take a look." They started walking, step by step, and leaving the safety of the road behind, moving toward the empty hillside where the smoke rose from nowhere. The wind picked up slightly, carrying the faint scent of something Ethan couldn't quite place. Not wood, not fire. Something deeper. Titan moved ahead of him, nose low, scanning the ground, then lifting his head toward the slope again. His movements were precise, deliberate, like he was following something invisible. Halfway up the hill, Ethan stopped. He looked around. Nothing. No structure. No entrance. No sign of life. Just snow. And silence. The smoke drifted above him now, so close he could almost reach it. Ethan turned slowly in a full circle. "This doesn't make any damn sense." Titan suddenly froze, completely still. Then, slowly, he lowered his head and pressed his ear against the ground. Ethan watched, and his breath catching slightly. The dog didn't move, didn't bark, just listened. Seconds passed. Then Titan's body tensed, and a deep, low growl rolled out of his chest, not at something above ground, at something beneath it. Ethan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. "What do you hear, boy?" Titan lifted his head, eyes locked on a single spot in the snow. Then he began to dig, fast, focused, desperate. Snow flew behind him as his paws tore into the frozen surface, claws scraping against the hard earth beneath. He didn't stop, didn't hesitate, like he knew exactly where to go. Ethan took a step closer, heart beginning to pound, not from fear, but from something older, something buried deep in his instincts. Something was down there, and whatever it was, Titan had found it. The smoke continued to rise above them, silent and steady, as if the hill itself was waiting for someone to finally understand what it had been hiding all along. Ethan didn't move at first. He just stood there, staring at Titan clawing through the snow like something possessed him. The dog's paws hit frozen dirt, scraping harder now, faster, as if time itself mattered. Hey, slow down, Ethan said, stepping closer. But Titan didn't listen. He never did, unless it mattered. And this mattered. Ethan's breath came out in short clouds as he crouched beside the dog, brushing away snow with his gloved hands. Beneath the thin layer of ice and powder, the ground felt different. Not loose, not natural, packed, deliberate. He pressed his palm flat against it. Cold, but not dead. Something shifted in his chest. Was not fear, not exactly. Recognition. For a split second, the hillside disappeared, and he was somewhere else entirely. Dust, heat, the hum of distant gunfire. The ground beneath him trembling as something hidden below came to life. Ethan jerked his hand back. Not again, he muttered under his breath. Titan stopped digging. He looked at Ethan, ears forward, eyes sharp, waiting, the way he used to, the way he always did back then. Ethan swallowed hard and forced himself to focus. This isn't the desert, he said quietly. This is Wyoming, just dirt and snow. But even as he said it, he didn't believe it. He stood slowly, scanning the empty hillside again. Nothing, no doors, no vents, no footprints. And yet, smoke, and now this. He took a step back. That's enough for today, he said, more to himself than the dog. We're not digging a hole in the middle of nowhere like a couple of damn fools. Titan didn't move. Ethan sighed. Come on. For a moment, the dog resisted. Then, reluctantly, he backed away from the spot, though his eyes never left it. Ethan turned and started back toward the truck. Each step felt heavier than it should have. By the time they reached the road, the sun had climbed higher, washing the hill in pale winter light. The smoke was thinning now, fading into the sky like it had never been there, like it had never mattered. Ethan opened the truck door and paused. He looked back one last time. Titan was already watching it. Still. Focused. Ethan shook his head and climbed inside. Just smoke, he muttered again, starting the engine. That's all it is. But the words sounded hollow. Red Hollow wasn't much of a town, a single main street, a gas station that doubled as a diner, a hardware store that sold more coffee than tools, and a handful of houses scattered along the outskirts, half buried in snow for most of the winter. People here knew each other, and they knew Ethan Cole, or at least, they thought they did. By the time Ethan pulled into town, a couple of men were already standing outside the diner, hands wrapped around steaming mugs. One of them nudged the other as Ethan's truck rolled past. There he goes, the man said, not bothering to lower his voice. Old war ghost. The other chuckled. Heard him yelling again last night. Thought someone was getting murdered. Probably just his dreams, the first one said, or whatever's left of them. Ethan kept driving. He didn't slow down. Didn't look at them, didn't react. But his grip tightened on the wheel just enough for his knuckles to turn white. Titan let out a low growl from the passenger seat. Leave it, Ethan said quietly. The dog settled, but not completely. They passed the sheriff's office next. Sheriff Cole Harding stood outside, talking to a woman near the steps. He glanced up as the truck went by, his eyes following it for a moment longer than necessary. There was something there. Not suspicion, not quite. Concern, maybe, or judgment. Ethan didn't care. He drove past the center of town and turned onto a narrow road leading out toward what used to be his land, or what should have been. The farmhouse came into view slowly, rising from behind a line of dead trees. It still looked the same. White paint peeling, a porch sagging slightly on one side, the old windmill creaking in the distance. But it wasn't his anymore. Not really. A newer truck sat in the driveway now, and lights burned in the windows that used to belong to him. Ethan stopped at the edge of the property. He didn't get out. He didn't need to. He already knew what he'd see. Still, he looked. For a long moment, neither he nor Titan moved. Then the front door opened. A man stepped out, mid-30s, clean jacket, confident posture. He walked down the porch steps like he owned the place, because now, he did. Or at least, that's what the papers said. The man spotted Ethan's truck and frowned. Then he walked a few steps closer, stopping just short of the property line. "You need something?" he called out. Ethan didn't answer. The man crossed his arms. "This isn't your place anymore, old man. You should know that by now." Still no response. From inside the truck, Titan's ears went up. A second figure appeared in the doorway. A woman. Ethan's chest tightened. His daughter. She hesitated when she saw the truck. For a moment, just a moment, something flickered across her face. Guilt. Then it was gone. She stepped outside, wrapping her coat tighter around herself. "You shouldn't keep coming back here," she said, her voice carrying across the frozen air. "It's not good for you." Ethan stared straight ahead. Didn't look at her. Didn't look at the man beside her. Didn't look at the house. "I'm not here for the house," he said finally. His voice was calm, flat, like it didn't belong to the man sitting there. The man laughed softly. "Oh, then what are you here for?" Ethan's eyes shifted. Not to the house, not to them. To the land beyond it. The hills. The same hills where the smoke had been rising. "I'm just passing through," he said. The woman's expression tightened. "Then keep going." Ethan nodded once. Then he shifted the truck into gear. As he drove away, he didn't look back. But Titan did. The dog watched them until they disappeared behind the trees. Then slowly, he turned his head. Back toward the hills. Back toward the place where something hidden beneath the earth was still waiting. Ethan followed his gaze, and this time, he didn't look away. Something had been taken from him. Everything, really. His home, his family, his place in the world. But out there, on that hillside, something was calling him. Not with words, not with sound, but with something deeper. Something he understood. Ethan exhaled slowly. "All right," he said under his breath. The truck rolled forward, heading back toward the open land, toward the smoke, toward whatever truth Titan had already found. And this time, Ethan wasn't walking away. The truck climbed the narrow path back toward the hillside, tires crunching through frozen gravel and patches of old snow. The sky had shifted, clouds rolling in low and heavy, pressing down on the land like something waiting to break. Titan sat upright in the passenger seat, alert, unmoving. He didn't look at Ethan. He didn't look at the road. He watched the hill. Every muscle in his body held tight, like a coiled spring. Ethan noticed. He always noticed. "You're not gonna let this go, are you?" he muttered. Titan didn't respond. Well, he didn't need to. Ethan exhaled slowly, then turned off the road and parked near the same spot they had stood earlier that morning. The smoke was faint now, almost gone, but the place where it had risen still felt wrong. Too quiet. Too empty. The kind of silence that didn't belong in open land. Ethan stepped out of the truck, the cold biting harder now as the wind picked up. He pulled his coat tighter and looked toward the spot where Titan had dug. "All right," he said. "Let's see what's got you so worked up." Titan was already moving. He jumped down, landed hard in the snow, and headed straight for the same patch of ground. No hesitation, no searching, like he had marked it in his mind. Ethan followed. The snow they had disturbed earlier had already started to settle again, thin layers drifting back into place. But Titan didn't slow down. He went straight to the exact same spot and started digging again. Harder this time. Faster. Snow flew behind him as his paws tore through the surface. The sound of claws scraping against frozen earth cut through the wind, sharp, urgent. Ethan dropped to one knee beside him. "Easy, easy." But Titan didn't ease up. He dug until the snow was gone, then through the thin crust of ice, then deeper, into something packed, man-made. Ethan felt it again. That same sensation. The shift. His pulse quickened. He grabbed a small shovel from the back of the truck and returned, kneeling beside the dog. "Move," he said gently. Titan stepped aside but stayed close, watching. Ethan drove the shovel into the ground. The metal struck something solid beneath the dirt with a dull, hollow sound. Not rock, not wood. Something else. Ethan froze. Slowly. Carefully. He brushed away the loose dirt with his gloved hands. A flat surface emerged. Dark. Smooth. Not natural. He leaned closer, brushing more snow away until a clear shape began to form. Metal. Old, weathered metal. Ethan's breath caught. "No way." He pressed his palm against it. Cold, but not like the surrounding earth. Different. Titan let out a low, steady growl. Ethan glanced at him. "You knew something was here, didn't you?" Titan didn't take his eyes off the ground. Ethan swallowed hard and tapped the surface with the handle of the shovel. The sound echoed, hollow. There was space beneath it. A sudden memory hit him like a wave. Dust-filled air, a buried hatch, men shouting, the smell of heat trapped underground. Ethan pulled his hand back quickly, and his breathing sharpening. "Focus," he muttered. "Stay here. Stay now." He forced himself to look again. The edges of the metal plate were faint, nearly invisible beneath the dirt, but they were there. Clean lines, straight angles. This wasn't random. This wasn't natural. This was built. "Someone put this here," he said under his breath. Titan barked once, short, sharp. Ethan turned his head slightly. "What?" Titan wasn't looking at the plate anymore. He was staring past it, toward the slope above. Ethan followed his gaze. The hill. The same hill the smoke had risen from. The same place Sheriff Harding had searched 3 times. The same place no one had found anything. Ethan's stomach tightened. This isn't just one spot. He stood slowly, scanning the ground around him. Subtle differences. The way the snow settled, the way the wind curved along the surface. Tiny shifts. Things most people wouldn't notice. But Ethan did, because he had spent years looking for places like this. Places hidden beneath everything. Places designed not to be found. His eyes narrowed. "This whole hillside." He stopped. Titan growled again, louder, more urgent. Then suddenly, he lunged forward, past the metal plate, up the slope. Ethan reacted instantly. "Titan!" But the dog didn't stop. He ran 10, maybe 15 feet ahead, then dropped low to the ground, ears forward, body tense. Then he did something that made Ethan's blood run cold. Titan pressed his ear to the earth again and froze. Ethan rushed toward him. "What is it?" The dog didn't move, didn't blink, just listened. The wind howled around them, snow lifting off the ground in thin spirals, but Titan stayed locked in place, completely focused. Then, a faint sound. Ethan heard it too, so faint he almost thought he imagined it. A vibration, deep, dull, like something shifting far below the surface. Ethan's heart started to pound. No! He dropped to his knees beside Titan and pressed his own hand against the ground. There it was. Subtle, but real. Something beneath them, something moving, or working, or alive in a way he couldn't explain. Ethan pulled his hand back slowly. "This isn't just old metal," he whispered. Titan lifted his head, eyes locked on Ethan, waiting. Ethan looked back at the plate they had uncovered, then at the hill, then at the dog. A choice settled in his chest. Heavy, unavoidable. He could walk away, tell himself it was nothing, but let the sheriff deal with it. Let the town ignore it. Let it stay buried. Or he could find out the truth. Ethan stood, his decision made. "We're not leaving this," he said quietly. Titan's ears lifted. Ethan turned toward the truck, already planning, already thinking 3 steps ahead the way he used to. "I'll get tools, real ones," he said. "We're gonna open this up." The wind picked up harder now, carrying a sharper chill. Above them, the sky darkened just a little more, and behind them, almost invisible now, a thin line of smoke began to rise again. Steady, silent, like a signal, like something down below knew they were getting closer, and was waiting. The wind picked up as Ethan loaded the tools into the back of his truck. An old pry bar, a heavier shovel, a rusted pickaxe he hadn't used in years. The metal clanged softly against the bed as he worked, the sound sharp in the empty cold. Titan stood a few feet away, facing the hill. He hadn't taken his eyes off it. "Yeah," Ethan muttered, slamming the tailgate shut. "I feel it too." The sky had darkened more since they'd arrived, clouds pressing lower, thick and heavy like something gathering strength. The air felt different now, tighter, heavier, harder to breathe. Ethan climbed back into the truck, but this time he didn't hesitate. He drove straight back up the slope. The ground was harder now, colder. Whatever heat had been leaking out earlier seemed to have faded, leaving behind a surface that looked untouched, but felt anything but. Ethan stepped out and grabbed the pry bar. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's find out what you've been trying to show me." Titan moved ahead, returning to the metal plate they had uncovered. He didn't dig this time. He just stood there, watching. Ethan knelt beside the exposed edge and drove the tip of the pry bar into the seam. It slid in easier than he expected. That wasn't right. He paused, then pushed harder. The metal shifted. Just slightly. But enough. A dull, hollow echo followed. Ethan froze. "Yeah," he whispered. "That's not rock." He repositioned the bar and pulled. The plate groaned, old, stiff but not broken. It resisted for a moment, then lifted just enough to let out a faint rush of air. Warm, not hot, but warmer than the frozen world above. Ethan leaned back instinctively. "What the hell?" Titan barked once, sharp. Ethan glanced at him. "Oh, you smell that?" The dog's ears were up, his body rigid, focused, alert. Ethan swallowed, then leaned forward again and pulled harder. This time, the plate lifted a few inches. Darkness beneath. Deep. Endless. He let it drop back down with a heavy clang. The sound echoed, longer than it should have, like it had somewhere to travel. Ethan stood slowly, his mind racing. This isn't just a hatch. He turned, scanning the hillside again. The slope, the way it curved, the way the snow settled unevenly in places. He saw it now. Not clearly, but enough. Lines, faint, almost invisible. But there. Someone built this whole damn thing, he said. Titan growled softly. Ethan nodded. Yeah, I think so too. By late afternoon, word had spread. It always did. Red Hollow didn't have much to do in winter, and anything unusual became everyone's business within hours. By the time Ethan drove back down toward town for supplies, a small group had already gathered outside the diner. They watched him pull up, watched the tools in the back of his truck, watched Titan jump down beside him. What's he up to now? One man muttered. Digging, from what I hear, another replied. Up by the ridge. A third man laughed. Told you, man's finally lost it. Ethan ignored them. He walked into the hardware store, boots leaving wet prints on the floor. Inside, the warmth hit him all at once. For a moment, it almost felt wrong. Too soft. Too easy. Afternoon, Ethan, the clerk said, eyeing him carefully. Heard you've been busy. Ethan nodded once. Need a few things. Digging something? Ethan paused, then shrugged. Oh, something like that. The clerk hesitated. Up near the smoke? Ethan met his eyes. Didn't answer. Didn't need to. The silence said enough. The man shifted uncomfortably. Sheriff's been asking around about that. Ethan picked up a coil of rope, set it on the counter. He can ask. People are saying it's not safe, the clerk added. That land. I know that land, Ethan cut in, his voice calm but firm. Better than most. The clerk didn't argue. He just rang up the items. Ethan was halfway back to the truck when he heard the voice behind him. You planning on tearing up county land now? Sheriff Cole Harding stood near the curb, hands resting on his belt. Ethan didn't turn around right away. When he did, his expression hadn't changed. Just digging, he said. Harding's eyes narrowed slightly. Oh, you got a permit for that? Ethan shook his head. Didn't figure I needed one to move dirt. Depends on where you're digging, Harding replied. Titan stepped forward slightly, positioning himself between Ethan and the sheriff. Not aggressive, just present. Harding noticed. His gaze dropped to the dog, then back to Ethan. That hill, Harding said. It's not yours. Ethan held his gaze. Didn't say it was. Then you don't have any business out there. Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, slower this time. Something's buried under that hill. A few of the townspeople nearby turned to listen. Harding didn't react. That so? Ethan nodded once. Metal, old, man-made. A flicker of something crossed Harding's face. Interest. But it disappeared just as quickly. Probably junk, he said. Old equipment. Maybe from before this town was even here. Maybe, Ethan replied. Harding stepped closer. But until we know for sure, he said, you stay off it. Ethan didn't answer. The silence stretched. Cold. Heavy. Then Harding added, quieter now. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. Not in anger, in restraint. I'm not looking for trouble, he said. Then don't go digging for it, Harding replied. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Ethan turned, opened the truck door, and climbed in. Titan followed. The engine started, and without another word, Ethan drove away. By the time he reached the hill again, the sun was already dipping low. The sky burned orange and gray at the edges, the cold deepening fast. Ethan didn't waste time. He grabbed the rope, the tools, and headed straight back to the spot. Titan was already there, waiting. Ethan dropped to his knees and drove the pry bar into the seam again. "All right," he muttered. "Let's open you up." He pulled harder this time. The metal groaned louder. Then it shifted. More than before. A crack opened. Darkness beneath. A faint rush of air rose again, warmer now, carrying a scent he couldn't quite place. Not decay, not fire. Something old. Ethan tied the rope around the edge of the plate, braced his boots against the ground, and pulled with everything he had. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the hatch gave. It lifted just enough to reveal a narrow gap. And from that gap, a deeper breath of warm air rose up into the freezing world above. Ethan leaned closer, peering into the darkness. He couldn't see the bottom. Couldn't see anything at all. Just black. Endless black. Titan stepped forward beside him, staring down into it. Then, he growled. Low, steady, not at the dark. At something inside it. Ethan's pulse began to pound again. "This isn't empty," he whispered. The wind howled across the hill, snow swirling around them, but down in that opening, there was no wind, no cold, just stillness, and something waiting in the dark. Ethan tightened his grip on the rope. His decision had already been made. "We're going down," he said. Titan didn't hesitate, and as the last light of day faded behind them, the two of them stood at the edge of something buried for decades. Something no one in Red Hollow had ever known was there. Something that had been hidden beneath their feet all along. And now, it was opening. Once the gap in the metal hatch widened just enough for a breath of warmth to spill out into the freezing air. It rolled over Ethan's face like something alive, soft, steady, wrong for a place buried under snow. He didn't move at first. He just stared into the darkness. There was no light below, no visible structure, just a hollow drop that swallowed the last of the daylight. Titan stood beside him, rigid, ears forward, eyes locked into the black. Then, slowly, the dog took a step closer to the opening. Ethan reached out instinctively. "Easy." Titan paused, then leaned forward and sniffed. His body tensed immediately. Not fear. Recognition. That same quiet, controlled alertness Ethan had seen years ago, when Titan had found something buried where it shouldn't be. Ethan swallowed. "Yeah, you know this feeling." The wind howled behind them, but down inside that opening, there was nothing. No movement, no sound, just stillness. Ethan reached into his coat and pulled out a flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, slicing downward into the shaft. It revealed walls, smooth, reinforced, concrete, old but intact. The beam traveled lower and lower, then disappeared into shadow. Ethan's grip tightened on the light. "This ain't just a bunker," he whispered. Titan let out a low growl. Ethan exhaled slowly, steadying himself. "You don't have to come," he said, almost without thinking. Titan didn't even look at him. He stepped closer to the edge. "Ready." Ethan gave a faint, tired smile. "Yeah. Figured you wouldn't listen anyway." He secured the rope around a nearby rock outcrop, testing it twice, and then a third time. His hands moved automatically, tight, precise, practiced, muscle memory, the kind that never left. He fed the rope down into the opening, then turned back to Titan. "Stay close." Titan huffed softly. Ethan swung one leg over the edge, then the other. For a brief moment he hesitated. The cold air behind him, the dark below. Two different worlds. Then he lowered himself in. The temperature changed almost immediately. 10 feet down, the bite of winter faded. 20 feet, it softened. 30, it was almost comfortable. Ethan's boots touched solid ground. He let go of the rope and looked around. The beam of his flashlight swept across the space. Concrete walls. A narrow corridor extending forward. Dust. Thick, undisturbed. No footprints. No recent movement. Just time. Ethan let out a slow breath. Oh, someone built this. A long time ago. A soft thud above him. Titan landed beside him. Ethan glanced down. "You good?" The dog shook once, then immediately lifted his head, scanning the corridor. Alert. Listening. Ethan followed his gaze. The tunnel stretched ahead, slightly sloped, disappearing into deeper darkness. The air smelled old, dry, but not dead. There was something else. A faint hum, so low it barely registered. Ethan tilted his head slightly. "You hear that?" Titan's ears twitched. The hum pulsed again. Deep, steady, like a distant heartbeat. Ethan's chest tightened, and just like that, the years collapsed. He was back there again. Not in Wyoming, not in the cold, but in heat and dust and noise. A buried structure, a tunnel system. Men moving fast, voices sharp, tension thick. Then, the ground shaking, the walls cracking, a collapse. Screams. Ethan sucked in a breath and stepped back suddenly, his flashlight beam jerking across the walls. "Stay here," he muttered. But his voice wasn't steady. Not anymore. Titan moved closer to him, pressing lightly against his leg, grounding him. Ethan closed his eyes for a second. Just one, then opened them again. "This isn't that," he said quietly. "This is different." But his hands still trembled. He forced them still. "Focus." He stepped forward. One step, then another. Each footfall echoed softly through the corridor, the sound bouncing off the walls in a way that made the space feel larger than it was. Titan walked beside him. Not ahead, not behind. Beside. Watching. Protecting. The hum grew slightly louder as they moved deeper. Now Ethan noticed something along the walls. Old wiring, metal brackets, faded markings, military, not modern, Cold War maybe. "Whoever built this," he whispered, "they didn't want anyone finding it." The corridor opened slightly ahead, a wider space. Ethan slowed. Titan stopped completely. Then, a sudden sharp bark, echoing, loud. Ethan froze. "What is it?" Titan stared ahead, unblinking. The flashlight beam followed his gaze, and then Ethan saw it. A second door. Reinforced. Heavy steel. Set into the wall at the end of the corridor. Closed, but not sealed. A faint line of light traced its edges. Ethan's breath caught. "That's where the heat's coming from." The hum was stronger here, clearer. Ethan stepped closer. Each step heavier than the last. Titan growled again, low, warning. Yet Ethan stopped just short of the door. His hand hovered near the surface. He didn't touch it yet. Didn't open it. Something inside him held back. Not fear, instinct. The same instinct that had kept him alive when others hadn't made it. "Think first," he murmured. Titan shifted slightly, still watching, still waiting. Ethan took a step back, then another. He turned, scanning the room again. Supplies, old crates, dust-covered shelves, everything untouched, abandoned, but not destroyed, like someone had left in a hurry and never come back. Ethan's jaw tightened. This place wasn't meant to be found. The hum pulsed again, stronger, from behind the door. Titan's growl deepened. Ethan looked at him, then back at the door, then back at the corridor leading up. A choice. Again. Open it now, or wait. And Ethan exhaled slowly. "We're not rushing this," he said. Titan didn't argue. He never did when Ethan made that tone. Ethan stepped back toward the rope, one step at a time. As they climbed back toward the surface, the cold air returned, sharper than before, biting harder against his skin. By the time Ethan pulled himself out onto the snow, the sky had turned dark. Night had fallen fast. The wind had changed. Stronger. Colder. Ethan stood there for a long moment, looking back at the open hatch. The smoke had returned, thicker now, rising steadily into the night, like a signal, like a warning. Titan stood beside him, silent. Ethan pulled his coat tighter. His mind was already working, mapping, planning, preparing. Whatever was down there. It wasn't random. It wasn't natural. And it wasn't safe. And Ethan looked out toward the distant lights of Red Hollow. "They have no idea," he said quietly. The wind howled louder. The temperature dropped another degree. And far off in the distance, a faint rumble rolled across the mountains. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Storm. Big one. He could feel it. In the air. In the ground. In his bones. He looked back at the hatch one more time, then at Titan. "Tomorrow," he said. But deep down, he knew something had already started. And whatever was coming, it was going to hit harder than anyone in Red Hollow was ready for. The next morning came colder. Not just winter cold, the kind people in Wyoming were used to, but something sharper. The kind that cut through layers, through bone, through thought itself. Ethan felt it the moment he stepped out of the truck. The air didn't move right, or too still. Then suddenly, too fast. The wind shifted directions without warning, sweeping across the hillside in uneven bursts. Snow lifted in thin spirals, then dropped again just as quickly. Titan noticed it too. His ears flicked constantly, picking up sounds Ethan couldn't hear. His body stayed low, tense, like he was waiting for something to break loose. Ethan looked up at the sky. Gray. Heavy. But not stable. "I've seen this before," he murmured. "Not here. Not like this." But the signs were the same. A storm building behind the silence. They returned to the hatch. The metal plate still sat partially open, the rope hanging into the darkness below. The thin line of smoke drifted upward again, steady as ever. Ethan didn't waste time. He climbed down. Titan followed. Inside, the bunker felt unchanged. Still. Quiet. But now, it felt closer. Like the place was no longer distant or forgotten. Like it had woken up. Ethan moved through the corridor again, slower this time, more deliberate. His boots pressed into the dust, leaving the first clear footprints that space had seen in decades. Titan stayed close, watching everything, listening. When they reached the reinforced door again, Ethan stopped. The faint hum was still there. Stronger now. Not loud, but steady. Persistent. He reached out this time, His hand touched the cold metal surface. Nothing happened. No sound. No movement. Just that quiet vibration beneath his palm. Ethan leaned closer, pressing his ear against the door. The hum deepened. And beneath it, something else. A faint clicking. Rhythmic. Mechanical. His heart skipped. "Oh, that shouldn't be running," he whispered. Titan growled. Ethan stepped back slowly. "This place, it's not dead." The thought settled heavy in his chest. Then, a sound above. Faint, but unmistakable. Voices. Ethan froze. Titan's head snapped toward the tunnel. The voices grew louder. Boots on snow, more than one. Ethan's pulse spiked. "Stay quiet," he whispered. They moved quickly, back down the corridor, deeper into the shadow, just out of direct sight from the hatch. The voices reached the opening. "I'm telling you, it's here somewhere." Sheriff Cole Harding. Ethan closed his eyes for a second. "Of course." Another voice followed. "We already checked this place." "Not like this," Harding replied. "He's been coming up here every day, digging." A third voice, uneasy. "Oh, you think he found something?" Ethan's grip tightened. Titan pressed closer to him, silent now, perfectly still. Harding stepped closer to the hatch. Ethan could hear the shift of boots right above them. Feel it. The faint vibration through the ground. "So where is it?" one of the deputies asked. Harding didn't answer right away. Then, a heavy step. Closer. Right above the opening. Ethan held his breath. Titan didn't move, didn't blink, just watched. Seconds stretched. Then Harding spoke again. "Look at the ground," he said. "Disturbed snow. He was here." Ethan's chest tightened. Another step. Closer. Ethan could almost see the shadow shifting across the edge of the opening. "He's digging something," Harding continued. "And whatever it is, it's not normal." A pause. Then, a sudden scrape. The metal shifting slightly above. Ethan's heart slammed. They had touched the hatch. Titan's muscles tensed instantly. Ethan placed a hand gently on his back. "Easy," he breathed. Above them, the deputy spoke again. "What if he's hiding something?" Harding's voice dropped. "Then we find it." The metal creaked again. The hatch shifted just slightly. Light spilled in, thin, pale, cutting into the darkness of the tunnel. Ethan stayed frozen. One move, one sound, and everything would collapse. Titan didn't even breathe. The light flickered as someone leaned over the opening. Ethan could see the edge of a boot now, right there, just feet away. "So what, we go down there?" the deputy asked. Harding didn't answer immediately. The wind howled above them, louder now, rattling against the open hatch. As snow blew across the opening, swirling in chaotic patterns. Then, a distant rumble. Low, deep. The kind that came from far across the mountains. Harding stepped back. "Not today," he said finally. "Storm's turning." Relief hit Ethan like a wave, but he didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even exhale fully. "We'll come back," Harding added. "With gear, properly." The other men nodded. Boots shifted. Steps moved away. The light faded. The hatch settled back into place with a dull, heavy sound. Silence returned. Ethan stayed still for several seconds. Then slowly, he let out a breath. Titan shifted slightly, looking up at him. Ethan gave a faint nod. "That was too close." The dog huffed softly. Ethan stood, his legs heavier now. "They're not going to let this go," he said. He looked back toward the reinforced door. The hum was still there, steady, unbothered. Whatever was behind it. It didn't care who was above or who was coming. Ethan ran a hand over his face. This just got complicated. Titan let out a low growl. Ethan nodded. Yeah, I know. He turned toward the rope again. We need to move fast. As they climbed back to the surface, the storm made itself known. The wind had grown stronger, sharper. Snow whipped across the hill in violent bursts. The sky had darkened further. No sunlight now, just a heavy gray ceiling pressing down. Ethan pulled himself out of the hatch and stood, scanning the horizon. This is it, he said quietly. Titan stood beside him. The dog's fur rippled in the wind, but his eyes stayed fixed on Ethan, waiting. Ethan looked toward Red Hollow, then back at the hill, then at the hatch. Oh, they don't see it coming, he said. Another rumble echoed across the distance, closer now. The storm wasn't days away. It wasn't even hours. It was coming. And when it hit, Ethan knew exactly what would happen. Buildings would fail. Heat would run out. People would panic. And the ones who laughed would be the ones with nowhere to go. Ethan looked down at Titan, then back at the hatch. His voice dropped. We're not just digging anymore. The wind howled louder. The temperature dropped again, and somewhere deep beneath the earth, that steady hum continued, waiting, preparing, just like he was. Ethan didn't go back to town right away. Instead, he stood there on the ridge, letting the wind cut across his face, forcing himself to listen, not just with his ears, but with everything he had left. The sky wasn't right. All clouds were moving too fast in one direction, and too slow in another. The horizon had that strange haze, like the air itself was thickening. Even the silence between the gusts felt wrong. Titan shifted beside him, not restless, not scared, alert. The dog's nose lifted slightly, testing the air. His ears flicked again and again, catching things too faint for human hearing. Then Titan did something Ethan hadn't seen in a long time. He refused to sit. Even when Ethan stood still, even when nothing seemed to be happening. Titan stayed on his feet, body angled toward the open land beyond the hill, watching, waiting. Ethan exhaled slowly. Yeah, he murmured. You feel it too. A memory rose uninvited. A desert sky. Too clear. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that meant something was about to break. Ethan clenched his jaw, and he had ignored that feeling once. Men had paid for it. He wasn't going to ignore it again. By the time he drove back into Red Hollow, the wind had picked up enough to rattle loose signs along Main Street. Snow drifted across the road in uneven lines, piling where it shouldn't, leaving other places strangely bare. Inside the diner, the usual crowd had gathered. Warm light, coffee steaming, voices low and easy, like nothing was wrong. Ethan stepped inside, Titan close behind him. The room quieted for a second. Not completely, just enough. Enough for people to notice. Enough for them to remember who he was, or what they thought he was. Ethan walked to the counter and sat down. Coffee, he said. The waitress nodded, setting a cup in front of him without a word. Ethan wrapped his hands around it, and letting the heat sink into his skin. Then he spoke. Storm's coming. No one answered at first. A man at the end of the counter chuckled. Storm always comes this time of year. Ethan didn't look at him. Not like this. Another man shook his head. We've had worse. Ethan took a slow sip, then set the cup down. No, he said quietly. You haven't. That got a few looks. Someone shifted in their seat. Another man leaned back slightly. What makes you so sure? Ethan finally turned his head, met their eyes. The air, he said. The way the wind's moving. The way the ground feels. A pause. Then laughter. Not loud, but enough. Ground feels, someone repeated. What, you talking to the dirt now? A few more chuckles followed. Ethan didn't react, didn't get angry, didn't defend himself. He just nodded once. Oh, get your wood inside, he said. Stock up, don't wait. The man at the end of the counter smirked. Or what? Ethan held his gaze. Or you won't have time. Silence stretched for a second. Then someone shook their head. You been out in that cold too long, Ethan. Or down that hill digging holes, another added. More laughter. Titan let out a low growl. Ethan reached down, resting a hand lightly on the dog's neck. Easy. The waitress set the coffee pot down harder than she needed to. You trying to scare people? Ethan shook his head, trying to warn them. She crossed her arms. About what? Ethan looked out the window. The wind had picked up again, stronger now, pushing snow sideways across the glass. About what happens when it hits, he said. No one spoke after that. Not because they believed him, but because they didn't want to. Ethan finished his coffee, left cash on the counter, and walked out. Outside, the cold hit harder, sharper, the kind that made your breath catch for a second. Titan stayed close as they moved back toward the truck. Ethan didn't head for the hill right away. Instead, he drove toward the edge of town, toward the hardware store again. He moved quickly this time. More supplies, more fuel, more food. The clerk didn't ask questions anymore. He just rang things up. You expecting trouble? The man asked quietly. Ethan nodded. Yes. The clerk hesitated. Bad? Ethan met his eyes. Bad enough. That was all he said. By late afternoon, the signs were everywhere. The wind had turned erratic, gusts hitting from different directions, stronger each time. The temperature dropped suddenly, then rose just enough to feel wrong, then dropped again even faster. Animals knew it. Cattle clustered together near fences. Birds moved in tight, nervous flocks. Even the dogs in town barked more than usual. Except Titan. He didn't bark. He didn't pace, he just stayed alert. Watching. Listening. Waiting. Ethan stood near the ridge again as the sun dipped low. He could see the town from here. Small, exposed, unprepared. They're not ready, he said. Titan didn't move. Ethan looked down at the hatch. The smoke was rising again. Stronger now. More visible. A clear signal against the darkening sky. They laughed at you, Ethan said quietly, almost to himself. Same way they laughed at me. The wind roared across the hill. Titan stepped closer to the opening. Ethan nodded once. On, we don't wait anymore. He moved fast now, carrying supplies down into the bunker, stacking them along the walls, fuel, food, blankets, everything he could carry, back and forth, again and again, each trip faster than the last, each movement sharper, focused, controlled, like he had done this before, because he had, not here, but somewhere else, somewhere worse. Night fell quickly. The temperature dropped again. And the wind didn't stop. It grew, stronger, louder, more violent. Ethan stood at the edge of the hatch, looking out one last time toward Red Hollow. Lights flickered in windows. Smoke rose from chimneys. People moving inside their homes. Safe, for now. They won't believe it, he said. Titan stood beside him. Ethan looked down into the bunker, then back at the town. Oh, they will soon. A deep rumble rolled across the sky, closer this time. The first real warning. Ethan climbed down into the hatch. Titan followed. Above them, the wind howled louder than before. Snow began to fall again. Not gentle, not steady, but sharp. Driven. Like the storm had finally decided to arrive. And when it did, there would be no time left to prepare. Only time to survive. The first impact came before dawn. Not with a sound, but with pressure. A deep, suffocating weight that seemed to press down on the world itself. Ethan woke instantly, not confused, not disoriented, awake, like he had never been asleep at all. Titan was already on his feet. The dog stood near the entrance, body rigid, ears forward, eyes locked on the sealed hatch above them. Waiting. Listening. The wind outside screamed. Oh, not howling. Screaming. It tore across the hillside with a force that made the earth itself tremble. Snow slammed against the reinforced hatch in violent bursts, like something trying to break its way in. Ethan pushed himself up. His joints protested, stiff from the cold and years of wear, but his mind was sharp, clear, focused. He moved through the bunker quickly, checking each point. Fuel, supplies, ventilation, everything held, everything steady. Above them, the storm intensified. A sharp crack echoed through the distance, then another. Wood snapping, structures failing. Ethan closed his eyes for a brief second. He could see it. Roofs collapsing, windows shattering, people scrambling too late. They didn't listen, he whispered. Titan let out a low, uneasy sound. Not fear, something else. Ethan turned toward him. What is it? Titan moved closer to the door, paused, then scratched once. Not to get out, not yet, but soon. Ethan frowned. No, he said quietly. Not yet. The dog didn't argue. He never did. But he didn't move away either. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time inside the bunker lost meaning. The storm didn't come in waves. It didn't ease. It only grew. Stronger, colder, more violent. The temperature dropped fast. Ethan could feel it even through the insulated walls. -40, maybe lower. Cold that didn't just freeze skin, it shut down lungs, stopped hearts. He sat in the dim light, listening, counting. Every gust, every shift, every unnatural pause between the noise. And then, there it was. Faint. Almost nothing. A sound buried beneath the storm. Titan's head snapped up. Ethan's eyes opened. They both heard it. A distant cry. Not clear, not strong, but human. Ethan froze. For a moment, the bunker felt too small, too safe, too separate from what was happening outside. No, he murmured. The sound came again. Weaker this time. Carried on the wind. Lost almost immediately. Titan barked once. Sharp, urgent. Ethan shook his head. No. Another sound. Closer. Or maybe the wind had shifted. It didn't matter. It was there. Someone was out there. Ethan stood up slowly. His hands trembled, not from the cold, from memory, from instinct, from knowing exactly what this meant. You go out there, he muttered, half to himself. You might not come back. Titan stepped closer, closer to the hatch, closer to the storm, closer to the sound. The dog didn't hesitate, not even for a second. Ethan looked at him, really looked, saw the same eyes that had once pulled him from fire and dust and collapsing stone, saw the same certainty, the same refusal to leave anyone behind. Ethan exhaled slowly. Damn it! He grabbed his coat, pulled it tight, checked his gloves, his boots, every movement deliberate, controlled, like a ritual, like something he had done 100 times before, because he had. He turned to Titan. If we go out there, he said quietly, we go together. Titan didn't move, didn't blink, just waited. Ethan nodded once. All right. He reached for the hatch, paused, listened. The wind roared louder than before. The structure above creaked under the pressure. Snow packed tight against the entrance. Opening it would be a fight. Closing it again, not guaranteed. Ethan tightened his grip. Stay close. He forced the hatch open. The storm hit them like a wall. A blast of frozen air slammed into his chest, stealing his breath instantly. Snow whipped across his face, blinding, biting, relentless. Titan pushed forward, low to the ground, moving through the chaos like he belonged in it. Ethan followed, each step heavy, each movement forced. The world outside had vanished. There was no horizon, no sky, no ground. Only white. Only wind. Only survival. Stay on me, Ethan shouted, though the storm swallowed his voice. Titan didn't need to hear. He led, cutting through the storm with instinct and purpose. Then, he stopped. Ethan nearly collided into him. What? Titan turned sharply, changed direction, moved faster. Ethan followed, heart pounding, lungs burning. Shapes began to form in the white, dark, broken. A fence line, collapsed, half buried. Then something else. A shape on the ground. Still. Too still. Ethan dropped to his knees, cleared the snow. A man. Barely conscious. Face pale. Lips blue. Eyes barely open. Ethan grabbed him. Hey, stay with me! No response. Just a shallow, broken breath. Titan barked. Moved again. Another direction. Another signal. Ethan dragged the man up, forced him over his shoulder. Staggered forward. Step by step, against the wind, against the cold, against everything. Then another shape. Smaller. A child. Curled into the snow. Titan was already there, standing over the child, shielding them from the wind. Ethan dropped the man, just for a second, reached down, lifted the child. Light. Too light. Still breathing. Barely. Come on, he muttered. Come on. Titan circled them. Urgent. Pushing. Guiding. Ethan grabbed both, one over his shoulder, one held tight against his chest, and turned back. Toward the bunker. Toward survival. Every step was harder. The wind stronger. The cold deeper. His legs burned. His lungs screamed. His vision blurred. But Titan stayed ahead, never losing direction, never slowing down. And when Ethan stumbled, Titan came back, pressed against him, pushed him forward. Again. And again. Until finally, the hatch, half buried, almost invisible. Ethan dropped to his knees, shoved the snow aside, forced it open, dragged the bodies inside, collapsed behind them. The hatch slammed shut. Silence. Not complete, but enough. Enough to hear breathing. Shallow, weak, but there. Ethan lay there for a second, then pushed himself up, moved, worked, checked pulses, wrapped blankets, lit more heat. Every movement automatic, every second critical. Titan stood in the center of it all, chest rising and falling, snow melting off his fur, eyes still alert, still focused, still listening. Ethan looked at him. "You found them," he said quietly. Titan didn't respond. He just turned his head toward the hatch, toward the storm, and then he barked again. Once, sharp, urgent. Ethan froze. "No," he whispered. Another faint sound, from outside. More voices, more people, lost, freezing, dying. Titan moved toward the hatch, without hesitation, without fear. Ethan closed his eyes for a second, then opened them again, stronger this time, more certain. "We're not done," he said, when Titan didn't wait. And neither did Ethan. Because out there, in the storm that had taken everything, there were still people left to save. Ethan didn't hesitate this time. The moment Titan barked again, sharp and urgent, something inside him locked into place. Not fear, not doubt. Purpose. The kind that didn't ask questions. The kind that moved. He grabbed the rope by the wall, looping it around his waist with practiced hands. The other end he secured to a steel ring, bolted deep into the bunker's support beam. "If I don't make it back," he muttered under his breath, "at least they might." Titan was already at the hatch, waiting. Ethan pulled his coat tighter, checked his gloves again, though they were already stiff from ice, and looked once more at the two people lying on the floor. The man barely moved, while the child's breath came in shallow bursts. "Stay alive," Ethan whispered. "Just stay alive." Then he opened the hatch. The storm hit even harder than before. It wasn't just wind now. It was force. Violent. Relentless. The kind that pushed back against every step like it wanted to erase you from existence. Titan leapt out first, gone in seconds, a shadow swallowed by white. Ethan followed, gripping the rope as it went taut behind him. "Titan!" he shouted. The wind tore the word apart, but the dog didn't need to hear it. He was already moving, already searching. Visibility was nearly zero now, shapes blurred into nothing, sound twisted and disappeared. Ethan kept one hand on the rope, the other shielding his face as best he could. Step, 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 each one heavier than the last, then a bark. Faint, but there. Ethan turned toward it, forced his legs forward. The rope dragged behind him, half buried in snow, the only line connecting him to survival. Another bark, closer. He pushed harder, and then he saw them. Two figures, one slumped over the other, a woman and another child. Titan stood beside them, body angled against the wind, shielding them as much as he could. Ethan dropped beside them. "Hey, hey, stay with me!" The woman's eyes flickered open, barely. "Please," she whispered, voice lost in the storm. "My son." "I've got him," Ethan said. He pulled the boy free. Light. Too light again. Alive, but fading. Ethan wrapped the rope around the woman's arm, tied it tight, then pulled both of them up. "Move," he shouted, though he knew they couldn't. So he moved for them, dragging, lifting, went forcing each step. Titan ran ahead, then back, then ahead again, guiding, pushing, never leaving them. The rope pulled tight, a lifeline, a direction, a promise, and finally, the hatch, barely visible, half buried. Ethan dropped to his knees, cleared it with frozen hands, forced it open, dragged them inside, one by one, then himself. The hatch slammed shut again. Silence, for a moment, just breathing, rough, heavy, alive. Ethan didn't stop. He couldn't. He moved fast, wrapped them, checked them, heated them. The bunker was filling now, bodies pressed close, breath mixing in the cold air, life fighting to stay. Titan stood in the center again. But this time, he wasn't still. He was shaking. Ethan turned. "Titan!" The dog shifted his weight, and that's when Ethan saw it. Blood. Dark. And frozen into the fur along Titan's front leg. Ethan's chest tightened. "When did..." He dropped to his knees beside him, ran his hands gently along the leg, a deep cut, clean, likely from ice, sharp, unforgiving. Titan didn't pull away, didn't whine, didn't react. He just looked at Ethan, waiting. Ethan swallowed hard. "You kept going," he said quietly. His hands moved fast now. Bandage, pressure, wrap, every motion careful, precise, the way he had done it before. Too many times. "You should have come back," Ethan murmured. Titan blinked slowly, then turned his head toward the hatch again. Ethan followed his gaze. "No," he said softly, but his voice lacked conviction. Another sound, faint, distant. The storm hadn't taken everyone. Not yet. Ethan closed his eyes for a second, then opened them, but resolved. "You don't stop, do you?" he said. Titan didn't answer. He didn't need to. Ethan looked at the people around him. More than before now. 10, maybe 12. All alive. All because of him. Because of the dog. Because of the choice to go back out. He stood up slowly. His body protested this time. More than before. The cold had sunk deeper. The exhaustion heavier. But he ignored it. He always had. "Stay here," he told the group. "Keep each other warm. Don't let anyone fall asleep." The woman nodded weakly. "Thank you," she whispered. Ethan didn't respond. Not because he didn't hear, but because there wasn't time. He turned back to Titan, looked at the bandaged leg. "You can't go again." Titan stood up, steady, despite the injury. Ethan shook his head. "No." Titan took a step toward the hatch, shone another, slow but determined. Ethan exhaled sharply. "You stubborn," he muttered. A faint smile touched his face, for the first time since the storm began. "Fine," he said. "But you stay close this time." Titan's ears flicked. Agreement. Ethan reached for the hatch again. The storm roared louder than ever. But now, it didn't feel like something to fear. It felt like something to face. Together. He opened the hatch and stepped back into the storm. Because out there, beyond the cold, beyond the wind, beyond the fear, there were still lives hanging by a thread, and one wounded dog, who refused to let that thread break. The storm didn't ease, it didn't weaken, it didn't show mercy. But something changed. Not outside. Inside. Inside the bunker, but where breath turned to fog in the dim light, and bodies pressed together for warmth, something shifted in a way no one could ignore anymore. Silence. Not fear. Not panic. Silence. The kind that came after truth finally settled in. Ethan pushed the hatch shut behind him once more, sealing out the storm that howled like it wanted them all gone. Snow slammed against the reinforced metal above, but inside, there was life. More than before. 15 now. Maybe more. Men. Women. Children. All crammed into a space no one in Red Hollow would have believed existed just a day ago. Ethan leaned back against the wall for a second. Just 1 second. His chest rose and fell hard, breath uneven, body pushed beyond what it should have been able to handle. Titan limped in beside him, slow, careful, but still standing, still alert. Yet Ethan looked down at him. "You're not done, are you?" Titan didn't answer. He simply moved forward, toward the others, the people who had once passed Ethan on the street without a word. The people who had laughed when he warned them. The people who had called him broken. Now, they watched him, not with doubt, not with judgment, with something else, something heavier, something quieter. Gratitude. And something close to shame. A man near the back shifted slightly, pulling a blanket tighter around himself. His face was pale, lips cracked from the cold. "That was you," he said, voice low. Ethan didn't respond. The man swallowed. You're the one who's been digging up there." Ethan looked at him, held his gaze. "Yeah." Another pause. A longer one. "I said you were crazy," the man admitted. Ethan nodded once. "I heard." The man looked down, didn't argue, didn't defend himself. He just sat there, quiet. A woman across from him spoke next. "You told us," she said softly. "At the diner. You told us to prepare." Ethan didn't answer. He didn't need to. Her voice broke slightly. "We didn't listen." The words hung in the air, heavy, unavoidable. Ethan looked around the bunker, at the faces, at the way they avoided his eyes now, at the way they held on to each other a little tighter. "They're alive," he said simply. That got their attention. "They're alive because you made it here. Not because of him. Not because of anything else. Because they moved. Because they survived." Ethan pushed himself off the wall, walked toward the center. Titan followed. The dog's steps slower now, but steady. Always steady, as a small child reached out, hesitated, then gently rested a hand on Titan's back. The dog didn't flinch, didn't move away. He simply stood there, allowing it. Ethan watched that for a second, then turned his attention to the room. "We need to keep the air moving," he said. "No one blocks the vents. Rotate positions every hour. If you feel yourself getting too cold, you say something. Don't wait." No one questioned him. No one challenged him. They listened. Because now, he wasn't the man they laughed at. He was the reason they were breathing. A figure shifted near the entrance. Sheriff Cole Harding. Ethan hadn't noticed him at first. The man looked different now. Not the confident authority Red Hollow was used to. Something quieter. Something smaller. Cole stood slowly, walked forward, stopped a few feet from Ethan. For a moment, neither man spoke. The storm filled the silence above them. Cole's jaw tightened. Then he said it. "I searched that hill 3 times. Ethan said nothing. Cole shook his head slightly, walked right over this place. His voice carried a weight now. Not frustration, not anger. Something else. "I didn't see it." Ethan met his eyes. "You weren't looking for it." Cole exhaled. A slow breath. The kind a man takes when he finally understands something he should have seen sooner. "No," he admitted. "I wasn't." Another pause. Longer this time. Cole's gaze shifted briefly to Titan, to the bandaged leg, to the blood still faintly visible beneath the wrap. "That dog," Cole said quietly. "He found all of us." Ethan nodded. "He always does." Cole swallowed. Then, yet in a voice barely above the storm, "I was wrong about you." Ethan didn't react, didn't smile, didn't soften. He just stood there. Cole lowered his head slightly. Not a bow, not submission, but something close. "Thank you," he said. Simple, direct, real. Ethan looked at him for a long second, then nodded once. "That's enough." Because it was. There wasn't room in this place for pride or blame. or anything else that didn't keep people alive. Hours passed, or maybe longer. No one kept track anymore. The storm above them never stopped. But inside, something held. The heat, the air, the fragile thread of survival. People began to shift closer, sharing warmth, sharing space, sharing quiet words. No one laughed anymore. No one doubted. Every sound mattered. Every breath counted. And in the center of it all, Titan lay down, carefully, protecting his injured leg, but still positioned where he could see everyone, watch everyone, guard everyone. The child from before curled up beside him, hand still resting gently on his fur. Ethan sat nearby, back against the wall, eyes half closed, not sleeping, never fully sleeping, just resting. For the first time since the storm began, Cole sat across from him, silent, watching. Not the man he thought he knew, but the one he should have seen all along. And above them, the storm raged on, unforgiving, relentless. But down here, in the place no one believed in, the ones who had laughed, sat in silence, alive, because of the man they had once ignored, and the dog they would never forget. Morning didn't come the way it usually did. No, there was no sunrise, no light breaking across the hills, no quiet easing of the wind. There was only less darkness, a faint shift in the air, a subtle change in the way the storm sounded above them. Ethan noticed it first. His eyes opened slowly, not from sleep, but from instinct. Something had changed. Not outside. Inside the hill. He sat up carefully, listening. The wind was still there, still violent, still relentless. But underneath it, something else. A low, steady hum. Ethan frowned. That hadn't been there before. Titan's head lifted. The dog's ears twitched. Then he stood, slowly, favoring his injured leg, but focused, alert. He turned his head, not toward the hatch, not toward the storm, but toward the far wall, the back of the bunker. Ethan followed his gaze. "What is it?" Titan took a step forward, then another. Each movement deliberate, purposeful. Ethan stood up. His muscles protested again, but he ignored it. He always did. He grabbed a flashlight and moved after the dog. The others watched quietly. No one spoke. No one questioned. They had learned. If the dog moved, it meant something. Titan reached the back wall, paused, then pressed his nose against the cold surface. Sniffed. Once. Twice. Then he scratched. Not at the ground this time. At the wall itself. Ethan narrowed his eyes. "That's solid," he muttered. Or at least, it was supposed to be. He stepped closer, ran his hand along the surface. Concrete. Rough, but uneven. There. A slight difference. A seam. Barely visible. Barely there. Ethan's pulse quickened. "Move back," he said quietly. Titan stepped aside. Ethan grabbed a tool from the supply pile, a steel bar. He wedged it into the seam. Pushed. Nothing. He adjusted his angle. Pushed harder. A faint crack echoed. The sound cut through the bunker like a whisper from somewhere deep. Everyone turned, watching, waiting. Ethan pushed again. This time, the wall shifted. Just enough. Dust fell. Old. Dry. Forgotten. Ethan froze for a second, then pushed harder. The section gave way, slowly, reluctantly, like it hadn't been opened in decades. A narrow gap appeared, dark beyond, cold, different. Not the same air as the bunker. Ethan shined the flashlight inside. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing a corridor. Metal walls, reinforced. Old. Very old. Ethan's breath caught. No way. Titan stepped forward again. She sniffed the opening, then looked back at Ethan, like he had known all along. Ethan stepped inside, carefully. The floor was solid, but dusty, untouched. The air carried a faint metallic scent, and something else. Oil. Old machinery. He moved deeper. The flashlight beam revealed more. Pipes. Vents. Control panels covered in rust. A bunker. Not his. Older. Bigger. Hidden beneath the one he had built. Ethan's mind raced. Cold War. Emergency shelters. Government installations. Abandoned. Forgotten. Until now. Until Titan. Jesus, he whispered. Behind him, voices stirred. People shifting, watching. Ethan turned back. There's more space, he said. A lot more. Relief spread across the room. More space meant more air, more safety, more chance to survive. Ethan stepped further inside. His light moved across the ceiling. Stopped. There. A vent. Old, but intact. And from it, a faint stream of warmth. Ethan stared. The hum. The sound he heard. It wasn't random. It wasn't the storm. It was this, a system. Still running. After all these years. Barely. But enough. And then it clicked. The smoke. Every morning. Rising from the hill. Not from fire. From heat. From ventilation. From this place. Ethan exhaled slowly. It was never random, he said. Titan stood beside him. Quiet. Certain. Ethan looked down at him. You found it. Not just the bunker. Not just the shelter. The truth. The reason they were all still alive. A voice came from behind. Sheriff Cole. What is this? Ethan turned. A second bunker, he said. Older than this one. Probably military. Cole stepped closer. It's wide. You're saying this whole time? Ethan nodded. The hill was hiding something. Cole ran a hand over his face. And we missed it. Ethan didn't answer. Because the truth was, they hadn't just missed it. They hadn't believed there was anything to find. Another figure stepped forward. A man in a thick coat. One of the survivors. I know this place, he said slowly. Ethan looked at him. The man swallowed. My father, he used to talk about it. Said there was a government shelter built out here during the Cold War. Never believed him. He looked around. I guess he wasn't lying. Ethan turned back to the corridor. Then something else came to mind. Something sharper. More personal. The land, he said. Cole frowned. What about it? Ethan's jaw tightened. Oh, this hill. This property. Cole's expression shifted. You said it used to be yours. Ethan nodded once. My family's. Before. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Cole looked at him carefully. Before it was sold. Ethan's eyes darkened slightly. Yeah. Another voice spoke up. A woman, older, shaking slightly from the cold. My sister works at the county office, she said. She mentioned something, paperwork that didn't look right, land transfers that didn't match signatures. Ethan turned. What do you mean? The woman hesitated. Like someone rushed it, changed things, made it look legal when it wasn't. Silence filled the bunker again. Heavy. Different this time. Ethan felt something shift inside him. Not anger, not yet, but something close. Who signed it? He asked. The woman shook her head. I don't know. Cole looked between them. We'll figure that out later, he said. Right now, we focus on staying alive. Ethan nodded slowly, but the thought stayed. Buried. Waiting. Just like everything else in this hill. He looked back at Titan. The dog stood still. Calm. Despite the injury. Despite everything. Ethan crouched down beside him. You didn't just save them, he said quietly. You brought us here. Titan blinked, then leaned slightly into him. Just for a moment. Ethan let out a slow breath. Above them, the storm still raged, but down here, something had changed. They weren't just surviving anymore. They had found something bigger, something hidden, something that had been waiting for someone willing to listen, and a dog who never stopped hearing what others couldn't. The storm didn't end all at once. It didn't fade gently. It broke. Sometime in the hours that followed, no one could say exactly when, the sound above them changed. The screaming wind weakened. The violent pounding softened into something distant, then quieter, then still. Ethan noticed it first. Of course he did. His eyes opened slowly, the same way they always had, like a man who never truly let himself sleep. He listened. No howling, no shaking metal, no impact against the hatch. Just silence. Real silence. The kind that felt heavier than the storm itself. Ethan stood. His body protested more than before. Every muscle felt worn down, stretched thin, pushed past its limits. But he moved anyway. Titan lifted his head, slowly, carefully. Yet the dog tried to stand, hesitated for a fraction of a second as pain flickered through his injured leg, then pushed through it. Still here, still standing. Ethan looked down at him. We made it, he said quietly. Titan didn't respond. He simply walked beside him, toward the hatch. Ethan reached up. His hand paused on the cold metal. For just a second. Not from fear, from knowing that whatever waited on the other side wouldn't be the same world they left. He opened it. The light hit them first. Not warm, not bright, but open. Gray sky stretched across a broken horizon. Snow lay thick over everything. Too thick, too still. Ethan climbed out, each step slow, careful, measured. Titan followed. And then they saw it. Red hollow, or what was left of it. Houses collapsed under the weight of ice and snow. As roofs torn apart, windows shattered, power lines down, fences gone. The town wasn't just damaged, it was erased. Ethan stood there in silence. The cold air cut deep into his lungs, but he didn't move, didn't speak. Behind him, people began to climb out of the bunker, one by one. They stopped when they saw it too. No one cried. No one shouted. There was nothing left to say. Sheriff Cole stepped up beside Ethan, his face pale, eyes scanning the destruction. "My God," he whispered. Ethan nodded slightly. They didn't have time. Cole swallowed hard, then looked at Ethan. "At least some of us did." Ethan didn't answer. His eyes were already moving, scanning, assessing, counting what was left and what wasn't. Titan moved ahead slowly, carefully stepping through the snow, and he stopped near what used to be a house, sniffed, paused, then turned back. Nothing there. Nothing left. Ethan watched him, then followed. They walked through the remains of the town. Together, the survivors behind them. Quiet, heavy, alive. Because of one decision. Because of one place, because of one dog. Hours passed, or maybe less. Time still didn't matter much. What mattered was what came next. Cole gathered the people near what used to be the center of town. "We'll rebuild," he said. His voice wasn't strong, but it was steady. "We'll figure out what's left, what we can use, and we start again." People nodded, not because they believed it would be easy, but because there was no other choice. Cole turned to Ethan. "You should be the one saying this," he said. Ethan shook his head. No." Cole frowned slightly. "Why not?" Ethan looked out at the hill, at the place where the bunker lay hidden beneath the snow. "That's where they survived," he said. "That's where it starts." Cole followed his gaze, understanding, slowly. Then something else approached. A vehicle, barely making its way through the snow. Old, familiar. Ethan's eyes narrowed slightly. The truck came to a stop. Two people stepped out, a woman and a man. Ethan didn't need to hear their voices. He knew them, his daughter and her husband. They walked toward him slowly, careful, uncertain, like they didn't know if they were allowed to be there. "Dad," she said softly. Ethan didn't move, didn't respond. She swallowed. "We heard about the storm. We tried to get here sooner, but..." Ethan raised a hand, not harsh, not angry, just enough to stop her. "You sold it," he said. Her expression faltered. "What?" "The land," Ethan said. "You sold it." Her husband stepped forward slightly. "It was legal." Ethan's eyes shifted to him, sharp, steady. "Was it?" Silence. The weight of it settled between them. The woman looked down, tears forming in her eyes. We thought it didn't matter," she whispered. Ethan nodded once. "Yeah," he said quietly. "You did." Another pause. Long, heavy, filled with everything that had happened before this moment, everything that couldn't be undone. She took a step closer. "We're sorry." Ethan looked at her, really looked, saw the fear, the regret, the realization. But something inside him had changed, not hardened, not broken, just clear. "You're alive," he said. She blinked, surprised. "Oh, that's what matters." Her lips trembled slightly. "Does that mean..." Ethan shook his head gently. "No. Not cruel, not angry, just final. I don't need anything from you anymore." The words didn't cut. They settled, quiet, permanent. He turned away, walked back toward the hill, toward the place that had saved them all. Titan followed, limping slightly, but still beside him, always beside him. Cole watched them go, then turned to the others. "That's where we rebuild," he said. No one argued, because they all knew. The hill, the bunker, the place no one believed in, had become the only place that mattered. Ethan reached the ridge, stopped, looked out over what was left of Red Hollow, then down at Titan. The dog lowered himself slowly into the snow, resting. Finally. Ethan crouched beside him, ran a hand along his neck. "You did it," he said quietly. Titan closed his eyes, just for a moment. Peaceful. For the first time since the storm began. Ethan looked back at the horizon, at the broken world, at the people beginning to move again, to rebuild, to survive. And he understood something simple, something clear, something final. The world had called him broken, forgotten him, pushed him aside. But when everything fell apart, when the storm came, he had been the one ready, the one who knew, the one who stayed. And beside him, the dog who never left. If this story meant something to you, I want to hear from you. Just type a simple 1 in the comments if you believe loyalty like Titan's still exists in this world. Or type 0 if you think stories like this are too rare today. And tell me, where are you watching from right now? I read every single comment. If you felt something in your heart while watching this, don't forget to subscribe. Because the next story might hit even deeper. And I'll be right here, waiting for you.